Multiversus has an insane lineup of new characters that are planned to be coming to the game in the near future, and Samurai Jack is on that list, and we happen to have his entire moveset leaked. Both of the names of the moves and the descriptions all in text format, and let me tell you, he is going to be an absolute powerhouse. Samurai Jack is one of the characters that I am the most excited to see come into the game, so we're gonna spend a little bit of time today breaking down his entire moveset. Before we start though, I want to give a major shout out to Multiverse Susie and Usil over on X. Susie dropped this about a week ago, but Usil is where it was brought to my attention. Go and give both of them a follow to stay up to date and get a more in-depth look at Multiversus Leaks. As always with these leaks, this is all subject to change, so take it with a grain of salt. But let's go ahead and start off here with the special ground down attack, which is going to be called Aku's Bane. All of these attacks are named this way with ground down or air down. This is just separating out his attacks that are performed in the air from the ones that are done on the ground. But the description for this one reads, Jack charges rapid slashes with his sword that deal marked. The longer the charge, the more the slashes Jack will do. If he has full focus, Jack will do the full amount of slashes without having to charge the attack. There are a couple of things here that we are introduced to in this move that we are going to talk about a little bit later. That being, Samurai Jack can cause enemies to be marked. Also, apparently, he can be in a state of full focus, which will empower his attacks. We'll cover that later, so let's go ahead and move on to the next move. We have the special ground neutral attack, which is going to be called Blade of Vengeance. This, unfortunately, does not have a description associated with it, so let me know down in the comments what your guys' guess is as to how Blade of Vengeance might end up working. Next up, we have the special air down attack, which is called Destructive Descent. The description for this reads, Jack darts downwards and drags his sword in front of him. With full focus, Jack will create a shockwave heavy projectile in front of him if he lands on the ground during the attack. Next up, we have Jack's special air neutral attack, which is called Lightning Reflexes. This will have Jack grab his opponent and throw them, breaking their armor and dealing marked. If Jack grabs an enemy projectile, he will throw it back at his foe, and to put icing on top of the cake here, Jack will be armored while throwing enemies or projectiles. This move right here is absolutely insane. I'm a little bit worried that it's almost like Superman-esque. Let me know how you guys feel. But let's go ahead and move on to Jack's special air side attack, which is called Lightning Strike. The description here reads, quote, same as ground, which doesn't do us much help. So let's go ahead and talk about the special ground side attack, which is also called Lightning Strike. This will have Jack ready a dashing sword strike. When the strike begins, he will teleport to his destination, hitting any enemies in between him and his starting position. With full focus, Jack will dash back and forth during the attack. Next up, we have his special air up and special ground up attacks, which are called Storm of Blows. This will have Jack jump into the air and kick enemies. With full focus, Jack will be armored during the attack and is going to move further. There's a bit of a combo move here because Jack will also perform the focus version of his special air down attack if he performs it immediately after the focus version of this attack. And that is it right there for Jack's special moves, which are a wild grouping of attacks, but we are not done here because we also have his normal attacks to go over and even some passive abilities to talk about. So let's just go ahead and keep this going with the normal air down attack called Downward Slash. This will have Jack slash his sword downwards. His sword has a sweet spot here if it hits an enemy at the end of its slash. Next up, we have the normal air side attack called Flying Slash. This will have Jack charge forward with a slash. Then we have the normal air up attack called Jump Good, which has Jack swing his sword over his head. There is also the normal air neutral attack called Whirling Sword, which will have Jack spin multiple times with his sword close to his body. That wraps up all of the normal air attacks. Let's go ahead and move on to the ground attacks. The neutral attack for the ground is called Face My Blade. This will have Jack charge forward with a stab. If fully charged, an Aku Beetle drone heavy projectile will leap toward Jack. Samurai Jack will then dodge the beetle and slice it in half with a powerful sword slash. Almost sounds like an overly complicated animation for a move. I'm wondering what sort of hitbox it's gonna have. But next we have the normal ground side attack called Martial Arts Master, which will have Jack do a combo starting with a kick, followed by multiple sword slashes. Jack's normal ground up attack is called Rising Tiger, which will have him charge a jumping multi-slash. Then his normal ground down attack is called Precision Strike, and this will have Jack charge and then stab his sword down into the ground. That's it for all of Jack's attacks, both normal and special, but apparently he also has passive abilities that we need to talk about. I'm thinking that these are perhaps the perks that you can add to Jack inside of the perk menu. There are 4 of these things, the first being called Mark of a Samurai, which makes it to where if Jack has an ally, some of Samurai Jack's attacks will deal a marked debuff to enemies. Then if that ally hits the enemy with the marked debuff, those marked debuffs will convert into a stack of weaken. A little bit complicated there, but perhaps really powerful depending on what team you're talking about. The second one is called Mental Focus. This makes it to where whenever Jack hits an enemy with a melee attack or is knocked back, his focus meter fills partially. Once it is full, his special attacks are powered up, but performing them will set his focus back to 0. The focus attacks have limited power as well and will deal weaken. Samurai Jack will only have a short amount of time where he can perform focus attacks before it's just going to automatically reset. So you cannot fill your focus meter and camp on it. The third passive ability being Calm Your Mind. This makes it to where while Jack is crouching, he will meditate, and meditating consumes some of his focus and turns it into gray health for him and nearby allies. This is where I get a little bit confused, and I'm not sure if these are perks or how exactly these passives are going to work, because the second passive seems to be where the focus comes into play, and if you have the third passive running but no focus, then the third passive is useless. So let me know down in the comments how exactly you guys think this might end up playing out. But then finally, we have the passive being called Move Like Water, which makes it to where after Jack does a forward dodge on the ground, holding the dodge input will transition Jack into a sprint. While sprinting, Jack will automatically dodge incoming enemy projectiles, but this sprinting right here will drain his defense meter. Overall, Samurai Jack is looking like he is setting up to be one of the best characters inside of Multiverses. Arya mains may finally jump over to someone else. Let me know down in the comments if you guys plan on maining Samurai Jack when he finally comes out. If you made it this far into the video, comment "made it" down below so I can give you an extra shout out. But that is all of the information that I wanted to go over. I hope you guys all have an amazing day. I'm out.